Evening, YouTube Live. Glad to see you on this awesome Monday, January 9th, 2023. We're in a new year in the Gregorian calendar. My name is Dr. Ron Fraser. Glad you can join me on my 28th YouTube Live. I'm wearing this amazing hat that I want to endorse. It keeps me warm during the winter season. During the winter season, it's nice and toasty, and I highly recommend it. It is made by Diop Olugbala. His IG is hats dot by a dot African militant, and I've appreciated working with him. I remember when I was education director of his mayoral campaign in 2011 when he ran for mayor in the city of Philadelphia. Um, excuse me, an important mentor, an important comrade. And one thing I appreciate about Diop, he's a man of character. He's a man of character because in our meetings that we had when we were planning the campaign, was very clear about what he did wrong, and he took accountability. And that was something I was proud of to see in a leader. It would be the kind of characteristic, it would be the kind of character that I would want any elected official to have, the character that I noticed in Diop Olugbala. So please check out his hat. You see my banner here at the lower left-hand corner of your screen. Get your hat at IG, and his IG handle is hats, again, dot by a dot African militant. And it keeps you warm during this winter. Highly recommended it. So that's how I want to begin my 28th YouTube Live. Also want to seriously endorse this amazing Black Seeds 2023. I noticed this at the African Cultural Arts Forum store on 52nd Street in Philadelphia. And I see they have a new calendar. They have a new calendar, which I highly recommend. Can't seem to identify these two figures, but I can identify the figures on the left hand of the screen. This is Runoku Rashidi, who transitioned, and next to him is Queen Nzinga, who conquered the Portuguese. So check out the Black Seeds calendar. I turned to the first page for the month of January, and I noticed this incredible first photo for the month of January that this showed. I'm going to try and zoom in here. And I want to read what's on the first page of this Black Seeds calendar. Can I zoom in? Let me try this. Okay. Okay, that's a little better. It says on this first page, some of the brothers who fought for us are finally home. This is celebrating the release of political prisoners. And this was printed before Dr. Mutulu Shukuru was released. And it's very inspiring message. Jalil Muntakim, Anthony Bottom, Sunjata Akoli, Clark Squire served almost 50 years as political prisoners in the U.S. prisons. The top sentence reads, Jalil joined the Black Panther Party at 16 and the Black Liberation Army at 18. As a result of his involvement in Black people's struggles, he, like so many other Black women and men, have been charged with crimes that were based on unsubstantiated evidence. During decades in prison, he earned several degrees and led several mentorship programs for other prisoners. Jalil did. He was incarcerated in 71 and finally released on October 7th, 2021. Sunjata Akoli, freedom fighter, Black Liberation Army, and Black Panther Party member, was severely wounded. His photo is in the top right. Was severely wounded in the same incident that led to the death of Zaid Malik Shakur and severe injuries to Asada Shakur. In 74, he was sentenced to life, Sunjata Akoli was, even though there was little to no evidence. Though Sunjata had an exemplary prison record now, the 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph reads, since the 93, he was repeatedly denied parole. Finally, the New Jersey Supreme Court determined he should be released, which occurred on May 25th, 2022. Many political prisoners still remain inside as a result of their efforts to fight the oppression and mistreatment of Black people. They need our help and support. And they list the websites here. You can support our political prisoners And this I'm reading from the Black Seeds 2023 calendar, which I highly recommend you get. And the website to get the Black Seeds calendar is blackseedsinc.org. Once again, that website is blackseedsinc.org. Make sure you support. I want to really create a simple so that we can really promote this calendar because it's powerful and I highly recommend it. The website is blackseedsinc.org. So check out that website. Their email, if you'd like to order, also is blackseeds1@netscape.net. So thank you. And I met the brother in DC. He introduced himself to me. We shook hands. And what I love about the Black Seeds, the most exciting part of the Black Seeds calendar, is the bottom of each month, they have the dates of important dates in African American history or Black history and the important birthdays of influential figures. So you see here, who I will discuss later, January 4th, the birthday of C.L.R. James, author of The Black Jacobins. January 7th, Zora Neale Hurston's birthday. January 8th, the African National Congress was founded in Tanzania in 1912. So he has all these important dates for each month. And you should definitely sit down and research those topics that the Black Seeds Inc. calendar mentions. Thank you very much to the creator of Black Seeds Inc. and to the creator of this awesome calendar, which I've used regularly. It is worth every penny. All right. And then again, check out this kufi. Please support. It keeps my head warm and I highly recommend it. And you can get it at IG at hats.by a dot African militant. Highly recommend it. So today, over the past since the last YouTube live, I read more of this interesting book and found one page of this book powerful. This past Tuesday was the birthday of C.L.R. James. This past Wednesday. And so I revisited on his birthday a page that really struck out to me. I had read it before, but it's about how one learns history. And it was so prescient and timely and relevant to my own work, which is currently writing a book about how history was written by a specific historian, Tony Martin. But I want to look at this particular page. He is reading Marx and describing Karl Marx's description of the 18th Brumaire, which is Marx's breakdown of the history of the French monarch Napoleon. And he makes an important point. So what he's doing here in this at the top of this page, page 130 something, it says he numbers one, May 4th to June 25th. This is Karl Marx's history of Napoleon's rule and how the people resisted um, that monarchy. James quotes Marx, struggle of all classes against the proletariat, defeat of the proletariat in June days. Number two, June 25th to December 10th. Dictatorship of the pure bourgeois republicans, drafting of the Constitution, proclamation of a state of siege in Paris. The bourgeois dictatorship set aside on December 10th by the election of Bonaparte as president. Number three, December 20th, 1848 to May 28th, 1849. And then he has Roman numeral three, Marx does. Number one, May 28th, 1849 to June 13th, 1849, and those dates, number two, three, four. James's point, he's making a specific point by really quoting Marx's own history of the 18th Brumaire. He says here, after the three divisions, there was one first period, a second period that was Roman numeral two, and then he has this third period. He says, after the three divisions, he puts another three or four. When you are analyzing a political situation, James writes, you don't just write and say you don't like that fellow and what he did and so forth. You say this thing began, for instance, the business of the industrial Stabilization Act in Trinidad and Tobago. It was first stated, and so and so. It went on from so and so to June. Sometimes it's only 20 days. Something happened in June. A new phase then begins from June 23rd. He's just telling you if you're going to write history, be clear and be very confident in the periods that you want to create and create very simple periods. Do not write history according to the wishes and the dictates of those paying you. When I read this, I was reminded of uh, the concern that was in the Negro World newspaper about Carter G. Woodson receiving funds from the Carnegie Corporation. And so, in this Negro World article, Negro World was edited by Marcus Garvey. Um, for a while, it was edited by T. Thomas Fortune. But there was an article in the Negro World newspaper about the danger of Carter G. Woodson with his organization, with his studies, depending on money from the Carnegie Foundation. And so, because with their money, the article said, I forgot the author, Robert Poston is the author. Robert Poston, Poston, was the writer of the article who expressed concern for Woodson taking money from the Carnegie Foundation because when you take their money, you have to write their Carnegie's history. So James's point is very salient here that when you're analyzing a political situation, when you're writing history as well, you don't just write and say you don't like that fellow and what he did and so forth. So powerful, powerful page from, again, that book is You Don't Play with Revolution, the Montreal Lectures of C.L.R. James. And the illustrator of this awesome, awesome illustration of C.L.R. James is Chris Wright. Chris Wright. So check his work out also on IG. This past Saturday, today's Monday, this past Saturday, January 7th, was the birthday of Zora Neale Hurston. And I thought about where I quoted Hurston, her very important work. I quoted her in my second book, which I co edited, about Toni Morrison's last novel. And spoiler alert, that novel is dealing with the dangerous consequences that happen when children are not taught to critically analyze the media because parents are unable to critically analyze the mainstream media. And so this is a quote from my article called Socialized to Silence, where I talk about what we see in the events of the novel, where an allegation was made, and that allegation was revealed to be a false allegation. I chose to really remember Hurston because while she was living, in most of her adult life, well, at least from 1948, because I believe she passed in 1960. But for a big chunk of her later years, she was humiliated, and she was humiliated by what was unfortunately a false allegation. And I discussed that in the highlighted part of my book here, comparing the false allegation in Toni Morrison's novel to the actual real life false allegation against Zora Neale Hurston. Miss Felicia Rashad mentions this false allegation in her interview about the Bill Cosby allegations. And she said her books were taken off the shelves. And it was absolutely true. My master's thesis professor, Deborah Plant, writes in depth about it in her biography of the spirit of Zora Neale Hurston, called Zora Neale Hurston, A Biography of the Spirit. And I quoted from Dr. Plant in this highlighted part, just talking about the false allegation, and how despite it being false, Hurston's work still pursued. But it would have been nice for her not to have to go through that, all because people don't know how to critically analyze. And just because the mainstream media says something is true doesn't mean it's true. Malcolm X clearly said the newspapers will have you hating those who are oppressed and loving the oppressors. And we have to constantly, for that reason, we have to constantly question the information we get from the mainstream media because it is propaganda, and not all propaganda is true. I write here a warrant was issued for Hurston's arrest. after she was accused in the 1940s for molesting a 10-year-old boy and two 11-year-old boys. And she was accused of smoking marijuana, indecent exposure, and voting fraud. And Plant, my master's thesis, and the biographer of Hurston, relates her experience in fighting these allegations to the experience of the subject of her last novel that was lost in a fire, unfortunately, Herod the Great, where Herod is a man who fought for the restoration of a good name. In the Bible, when I was growing up, Herod was the absolute villain, because it was known that Jesus um, was the Son of God, and he was fearing that he would cause trouble and threaten his power. So Herod sent spies to murder and find and kill him. But what Hurston does is really tell the story from Herod's point of view, because he had to fight for a good name. And because she really did fight, and Plant writes about the ways that Hurston fought this false allegation. She succeeded. Hurston succeeded. So this is what I want to think about when I think about Zora Neale Hurston, dealing with the lies from the mainstream media. And she lamented to a friend that she wrote, she was about to kill herself, because of the false allegations, even from the Black press, even from the Baltimore Afro American, validating her accuser, declaring her basically guilty of everything that the accuser said, instead of vetting it, instead of critically questioning it, instead of verifying it. Reagan had a popular saying, trust but verify. So ultimately, Hurston was able to restore her good name. And that's why we study her today in so many schools. She wrote that incredible ethnography of her life in Jamaica, or her life in Haiti, documented, chronicled the practices of hoodoo, of Maoism, of the maroon culture. So I appreciate what Hurston documented. Her name absolutely in my lifetime has been restored, not as whatever these charges claim. So Plant writes that Hurston was totally exonerated of the charges by March 14th, 1949. But still, the power of them stung her, certainly in the second to last decade of her life. Um, um, and it speaks to the need for people to really vet allegations instead of declaring individuals guilty in the media, which happens too often. I just finished the second half. I started in my previous YouTube live talking about the first four episodes of the amazing FX series Kindred, that's on Hulu, that I watch on my phone. And at first I was tepid. I was um, not sure about the creative liberties, the differences that the television screenplay that Brandon Jacobs Jenkins writes, how much it differed from the novel. Because I read the novel and then I reread the novel just to remind myself of the core story Octavia Butler is telling. And I have to say, ultimately, I think the teleplay, or the script, really keeps the integrity, and it updates the whole story from Dana, who was, when we read, the present for Dana was 1976. The novel first came out 79. So what Brandon Jacobs Jenkins and his writing crew is doing is updating it, and I think I like it. I think I like the particular changes that he made. Um, I had to reread the novel just to make sure I got the point. So I reread it, and there was certain points, if you remember my previous YouTube, that speak to Octavia Butler's original point in writing the novel. She wrote that novel really for a Black audience. It was clear. She told Charles Rowell she had a Black audience in mind when she wrote the novel. And what she wanted to convey it to the Black audience is, please do not underestimate the sacrifices your ancestors had to make so that you could be here. Because she told Charles Rowell that she wrote after hearing someone say, um, basically denigrate his ancestors, say, well, if I was in slavery. They'd have had to lynch me, blah, 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 blah. And she felt so offended. So she's very clear the way she writes it before I get into the TV series and the amazing. I want to commend the crew. There were certain parts that I didn't like when I first saw, to be honest. Certain acting I didn't like, but it's clear I'm seeing the improvement as the series progresses. It goes from one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8 episodes. Um, there are 8 episodes of this Kindred TV series, and I I was interested in two particular aspects. I'm looking for the cast list. I'm going to find it. By the way, if you just joined my YouTube live, please like, share, and subscribe. Please like, share, and subscribe. Um, here we are. Here we are. So yeah, I again want you to encourage you to get your hats, IG hats dot by a dot African militant. Powerful scenes in episode 6. So basically, the story of Kindred is the TV series. It's been updated from 1976, like where it was in the novel, to 2016. The big differences between from the novel to the TV series is that Kevin and Dana, Kevin is a white working class man, Dana um, is a black woman. They're not married in the TV series, but that works. That works for the update. I think it absolutely works for the update because they're getting to know each other. And Kevin's devotion to Dana is striking and it's powerful. And I appreciate watching it. It reminds me of the interracial couple scene in Roots. Something that really spoke to me, that of all the lines in the second half, episodes 5 through 8, that spoke to me, the line that spoke to me most, which let me know they're really doing this story of Octavia Butler's a good service, is that line that, okay, the TV series inserted the mother. The mother was never in the novel. It was just Dana, whose like duty and task and objective in the novel is to locate her great grandmother, Alice, and basically unite him with Rufus, who is a plantation owner, the son of Tom Whalen, Rufus Whalen. So that's her like moral duty. Um, and so in that, you get Octavia Butler's overarching lesson, which I mentioned earlier, of not underestimating the sacrifice. You really get that, what Alice had to go through and how Dana appreciated that. Dana, in the novel, she's very clear that she, she, she is supposed to, but she appreciates what she has even more because she is aware of what her great grandmother Alice has had to go through, giving up the man she truly loves for a man of means, who is Tom, who she will conceive a child with. That will be her grandmother. Um, yeah. Um, the powerful line in the TV series that let me know this TV series is on the right track was when Dana was talking to her mother, Olivia, which the TV series has added. They added Olivia. We didn't know anything about the mother in the novel, but in the TV series, Olivia is a whole character. In the TV series, Dana, for Dana, her mom dies in a car accident. She doesn't see her. She moves from the East Coast to California. Um, her aunt, her mother's sister, played profoundly by Issa Davis, who I saw in um, Lynn Nottage's play, by the way, meet Vera Stark at second stage. Powerful performance by Issa Davis. Um, she's like the one trying to relate Dana's experience to the 21st century. And Dana trusts her. It takes her a few episodes to really be bold enough to tell her aunt, um, who is Olivia's sister, what's happening, which is that she's traveling back to her great grandmother's time in Maryland on a Maryland slave plantation. So she's conveying the story at the end of the eighth episode. Um, we learn that Olivia is back. So the mother, so that's a huge creative liberty that we never saw in the novel. But I like it because at the same time that is happening, her husband, not husband, the man who she's in a relationship with, Kevin, um, in the novel, he goes to Philadelphia and is lost there for a long time, in the novel. But I like the creative liberty in the TV series. In the TV series, he's stuck, not away, but on the plantation. And by the end of episode 8, you see how the plantation has socialized Kevin. And as another reviewer said, he has gray hairs. So shout out to Micah Stock for an amazing performance of Kevin. Shout out to Mallory Johnson for an amazing performance of Dana. Um, and then I saw a powerful interview. Oh yeah, the line. I need to tell you that line. The line that really blows my mind, that let me know that Brandon Jacob Jenkins' creative liberties are okay with Octavia Butler, in my read, Dr. Fraser's read, is when Dana tells her mother by the river. And I love it that they filmed these words by a river. Dana tells her mom, I don't want to be like you. I don't want to get used to this. And that was Octavia Butler's point. If you stay in it long enough, you'll get used to it. So this statement that she heard her black college classmates say, oh, they'd have to kill me, is based on a very surface understanding of what our ancestors really had to go through. So the mother kind of says, the mother's clear, like, I mean, this is just the way it is. But I love what the mother does in telling her to move on because Dana, powerfully performed by Mallory Johnson, confesses by the river to her mother, I want us to come back and I want us to come back and be a family. And the mother's just like, that's not gonna, no. And that was powerful to me. That was probably the most powerful scene of the whole series. Um, so shout out to Mallory Johnson, who played Dana, and shout out to Sharia Irving. Sharia Irving plays Olivia. And I saw an amazing interview um, done by Keisha Hackett. I want to get her name right. Her name is Keisha Hatchett. Keisha Hatchett interviewed the cast of Kindred, and at the top of this photo, on the left you see Sharia Irving, in the middle you see Austin Smith, who performs Luke. Um, Luke is the uh, he's basically the worker for Tom, and basically has to have that he's starting to oppose Dana the longer the series goes. And then on the right is the actress um, Sophia Brown, who performed Sarah. Sarah is a cook, and boy, do they take creative liberties with her role. A lot of creative liberties about how she plans certain things, and I appreciated that because it shows how each of the enslaved people were plotting some way to get out of their present situation. At the lower left of this photo is Brandon Jacobs Jenkins talking about the process. This was an amazing interview. Y'all should really check this interview out. And then in the lower right, you see amazing actors. Their work grew on me. At first, I was leery, but I have to say they grew on me. Gail Rankin performed Margaret Whalen, powerful actress. I appreciate her work. And then Rufus Whalen, played by David Alexander Kaplan. Is the young boy. No, but he's not in the photo. Who's in the photo here at the lower right is Ryan Quanten. Ryan Quanten is Thomas Wayland. What really struck me is um, in the novel and in the TV series, the ways in which, you know, men are sexually, particularly taught about sex. They have to divest themselves of any emotional intelligence. And it makes the person raping look as monstrous and as victimized as the person that they choose to victimize. So it blows your mind. Check out Kindred on Hulu. This concludes my YouTube live, my 20th YouTube live. Please subscribe, like, and share. If what I've said has benefited you, you've learned something from it, support my Cash App. It's $ Rome Fraser. Don't forget to get your hat at IG at hats.by a.african militant. God bless.